Captain Lee Do-hyun was having his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started blasting through his ship. He rushed to the command center, still in his pajamas, wondering what could be so urgent at 6 in the morning. His crew was already gathered around the main screen, their faces showing complete shock. "So you need to see this," said his communications officer, her voice barely a whisper. "It's from the Vallani Empire." Do-hyun had heard of the Vallani before. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were tall, elegant beings made of living crystal who ruled over dozens of star systems. Their technology was so advanced that most species could only dream of reaching their level. They rarely spoke to humans, considering them too primitive to bother with. The screen flickered to life, and Do-hyun's jaw dropped. Standing before him was Queen Aratel herself, the most powerful ruler in this part of the galaxy. But something was terribly wrong. Her normally bright rainbow-colored crystal body was dim and gray. Her light kept flickering like a dying bulb. Tears that looked like liquid diamonds were streaming down her face. "Human Captain," her voice echoed with pain, "I need your help." Do-hyun couldn't believe what he was hearing. The mighty Queen of the Vallani Empire was asking a human for help? His crew members looked at each other in confusion. This had to be some kind of joke or mistake. The Queen continued, her voice breaking with emotion. "My youngest daughter, Princess Hyera, has vanished. She was on a peace mission to the Outer Rim territories 3 months ago. Her ship, her guards, everything just disappeared without a trace." The screen showed a hologram of the princess. She looked young, maybe equivalent to a 20-year-old human with crystal skin that glowed soft pink and blue. Her smile was warm and kind, the type of person who probably never hurt anyone in her life. "We have sent our best search fleets," the Queen explained. "Our most advanced ships, our greatest warriors, our most skilled trackers. They found nothing. Our psychic abilities, which can usually locate any Vallani across the galaxy, detect no trace of her. It's as if she simply stopped existing." Do-hyun felt his heart sink. If the mighty Vallani couldn't find her with all their technology and power, what chance did a small human crew have? But the Queen wasn't finished. "I have heard stories about your species. They say humans never give up. They say you fight when others surrender. They say you find ways when others see only walls." Her dim light flickered brighter for a moment. "I am willing to offer half of my royal treasury, mining rights to 3 of our richest worlds, and a permanent alliance with your people. All I want is my daughter back." The amount she was offering was unbelievable. It would make Earth one of the richest planets in the galaxy overnight. But Do-hyun could see this wasn't about money for the Queen. This was a desperate mother who had lost her child. "Your Majesty," Do-hyun said, straightening his shoulders, "we'll find your daughter. I give you my word as a human being and as a captain. We won't stop looking until we bring Princess Hyera home to you." For the first time during their conversation, the Queen's crystal form glowed a little brighter. "Thank you, Captain Lee Do-hyun. Thank you for giving me hope when I had none left." Do-hyun's ship, the Resilient Dawn, jumped into hyperspace within an hour of accepting the Queen's mission. The crew worked frantically to prepare for what might be the most important search and rescue operation in human history. Everyone knew the stakes, not just for the missing princess, but for humanity's future relationship with one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. 3 days later, they arrived at the coordinates where Princess Hyera had last been seen. The area looked completely empty at first glance, just another patch of dark space between star systems. But Sergeant Kim Min-ho, their best scanner operator, wasn't fooled by appearances. "Captain, I'm picking up debris scattered across a wide area," Min-ho reported, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "It spread out over several million kilometers, like something exploded and the pieces drifted apart." Do-hyun ordered the ship to move closer. As they approached, the debris field became visible through the main view screen. Twisted pieces of metal floated silently in space, some still glowing from whatever had destroyed them. The wreckage looked elegant and beautiful even in destruction, clearly Vallani technology. "Those are pieces from royal escort ships," said their alien technology expert, Dr. Park Soo-jin. She had studied Vallani designs for years and could identify their ships from just a few fragments. The princess was traveling with at least 4 guard vessels. All of them are gone. Min-ho ran deeper scans on the wreckage. His face grew grim as the results came in. "Sir, I'm detecting energy residue. That doesn't match Volani weapons. These ships were attacked by someone else. Can you identify the weapon signatures?" Do-hyun asked. "Working on it." Min-ho's screen filled with data as the computer analyzed the energy patterns. After several tense minutes, he looked up with a worried expression. "Captain, these match Corvan energy weapons. We're dealing with the Corvan Syndicate." Everyone on the bridge went quiet. The Corvan Syndicate wasn't just another criminal organization. They were the galaxy's most feared slavers. They specialized in capturing rare and valuable beings to sell on the black market. Wealthy collectors across the galaxy paid enormous sums for exotic slaves, and the Corvans were happy to supply them. A crystal princess would be worth a fortune. "To them," Dr. Park said quietly. "The Volani are incredibly rare, and royal family members even more so. Some sick collector would pay almost anything to own one." Do-hyun felt anger building in his chest. The idea of someone treating the kind young princess as a trophy made him want to punch something, but anger wouldn't help them find her. They needed information. "Min-ho, start monitoring black market communication channels," he ordered. "Look for any chatter about recent Corvan sales, especially anything involving crystals or Volani." For the next 2 days, Min-ho worked around the clock, intercepting coded messages between criminals, smugglers, and black market dealers. Most of it was routine illegal business: weapons sales, spice running, stolen cargo. But on the 3rd day he found something interesting. "Got it," he announced, calling everyone to the bridge. "There's been talk on the Nexus Station trading networks about a crystal prize that sold for an incredible amount 3 weeks ago. The buyer's identity is protected, but the seller was definitely Corvan." "Nexus Station," Do-hyun repeated. The lawless trading post was known as a place where anything could be bought or sold, no questions asked. "That's our next stop. If Princess Hayara was sold there, someone will know who bought her." The hunt was just beginning. Nexus Station looked like a massive metal city floating in space. Ships from dozens of different species docked at its countless ports, bringing cargo that ranged from perfectly legal to absolutely forbidden. The station had no real government, just whoever had the biggest guns and the most credits got to make the rules. It was exactly the kind of place where stolen princesses might be sold. Do-hyun knew they couldn't just walk in, wearing their military uniforms, and start asking questions. Within minutes, word would spread that humans were looking for someone, and every criminal on the station would either disappear or try to kill them. They needed to blend in. "From now on, we're independent traders," Do-hyun told his crew as they prepared their disguises. "We deal in rare metals and exotic technology. We're here looking for business opportunities, nothing more." Corporal Park So-young was perfect for this mission. She had grown up in a space trading family before joining the military, so she knew how these places worked. More importantly, she could speak 17 different alien languages fluently. If anyone could get information without raising suspicion, it was her. The team split up once they docked. Do-hyun and 2 others headed to the main trading floors to establish their cover story, while So-young made her way to the station's famous Cantina district. That's where the real information flowed, usually along with plenty of alcohol. The first cantina So-young entered was called the Void's End. It was dark, smoky, and full of beings she couldn't even identify. Perfect. She ordered a drink and sat at the bar, listening to conversations in half a dozen languages. Most of the talk was boring: cargo prices, shipping routes, complaints about space pirates. But So-young was patient. She had learned long ago that in places like this, the really interesting information came out after people had been drinking for a while. After 2 hours, she heard something useful. A group of Corvan traders at a corner table were bragging about a recent big score. So-young pretended to be fascinated by her drink while listening carefully to their hissing, clicking language. The he. "Crystal 1 brought more credits than we ever imagined," one of them was saying. "Thorin paid 50 times our usual rate without even trying to negotiate." So-young's heart jumped. Thorin, she had heard that name before. Vex Thorin was a crime lord who owned his own planet and collected rare beings like some people collected art. If he had bought Princess Hyra, she was in serious trouble. 50 times, another Corvan laughed. No wonder he's building that new display chamber on Kydros. Must be something really special. So Young forced herself to stay calm and keep listening. Over the next hour, she learned that Thoran had recently expanded his private fortress on the planet Kydros. He was known for keeping his collection in specially designed chambers, where he could show them off to visiting crime bosses and corrupt politicians. She moved to 2 more cantinas that night, carefully gathering more pieces of the puzzle. By the time she met up with Do-hyun and the others, she had a clear picture of what had happened. Princess Hyra was definitely sold to Vex Thoran 3 weeks ago, she reported. He's keeping her on Kydros in his personal fortress. The place is supposed to be impregnable. Energy shields, automated defenses, and a private army of mercenaries. Do-hyun felt his anger rising again, but he kept his voice steady. How do we get to her? That's the problem, So Young said. Kydros isn't just any planet. It's Thoran's private world. No one gets on or off without his permission. The entire planet is basically one giant fortress. Then we'll have to get his permission, Do-hyun said grimly, or find another way in. The rescue mission was about to get much more dangerous. The planet Kydros was a dark, rocky world that looked like it had been designed by someone who wanted to keep visitors away. Massive gun turrets dotted the surface, energy shields shimmered in the atmosphere, and patrol ships circled endlessly like metal sharks. Do-hyun had seen military bases with less security. Getting permission to land had taken 3 days of careful negotiation through Thoran's representatives. Do-hyun had to pretend he was a wealthy collector, interested in buying rare items for his own collection. The lies tasted bitter in his mouth, but he knew it was the only way to get close to the princess. Thoran's fortress sat in the center of the planet's main continent, like a black metal mountain. It was huge, easily the size of a small city, with towers reaching up into the clouds. Landing platforms extended from various levels, each one heavily guarded by armed mercenaries from a dozen different species. Welcome to my home, Vex Thoran greeted them personally when they disembarked. He was a tall, thin being with grey skin and too many teeth. His eyes were cold and calculating, the eyes of someone who saw other living beings as objects to be bought and sold. I understand you're interested in acquiring some unique pieces for your collection. Do-hyun forced himself to smile. I've heard you have the finest collection in the galaxy. I'm particularly interested in rare specimens. Thoran's grin widened. Such a being of refined taste. Come, let me show you my pride and joy. They walked through corridors lined with display cases. Each one contained a different sentient being. Some Do-hyun recognized, others were completely alien to him. All of them looked miserable, their eyes dim with despair. It took every ounce of his self-control not to smash the cases open right there. And here, Thoran said, stopping at a large chamber at the end of the hall, is my newest acquisition. Do-hyun's heart nearly stopped. Princess Hyra sat in the center of a crystal containment field, her once bright form now barely glowing. She looked thin and weak, her beautiful crystal skin dulled by months of captivity. But she was alive, and when she saw them, her eyes showed a flicker of hope. Magnificent, isn't she? Thoran said proudly. The only Vallani princess in captivity. Completely irreplaceable. I've had offers from collectors across the galaxy, but nothing could convince me to part with such a treasure. Perhaps we could discuss terms, Do-hyun said carefully. I'm prepared to make a very generous offer. Thoran laughed. My dear human, you could offer me half the credits in the galaxy and I wouldn't sell her. She's not merchandise anymore. She's art. She's the centerpiece of my entire collection. Do-hyun tried for another hour, offering increasingly desperate amounts of money, rare technologies, even territorial rights. But Thoran just kept shaking his head, enjoying the human's obvious frustration. Finally, Do-hyun realized there was no point in continuing. I see. Well, thank you for showing me your collection. Perhaps we can do business another time. Back on their ship, which had been allowed to dock at one of the outer platforms, the team gathered in the briefing room. Lieutenant Choi Ji-woo had used the visit to secretly scan the fortress's defenses with hidden sensors. It's bad, she reported. projecting a holographic map of the fortress. Energy shields cover the entire complex, guard towers every 50 meters, motion sensors, heat detectors, and automated gun turrets covering every approach. The princess is being held in the center of the fortress, at least 20 levels underground. "How many guards?" Du Hyun asked. "I counted at least 300, and that's just what I could see. There could be twice that number inside." The room fell silent. They were just 6 humans against an entire fortress full of professional killers, protected by advanced technology and energy shields. It seemed impossible. But Do Hyun thought about Queen Aratel's tears, about Princess Hiera's hopeful eyes, about his promise to bring her home. Sometimes humans had to do impossible things. "Start planning," he told his team. "We're going in." The plan was crazy, which made it perfect. Alien security systems were designed to predict logical behavior patterns. They expected attackers to take the shortest route, use the most efficient tactics, and follow standard military procedures. Humans, as Do Hyun had learned over the years, were wonderfully unpredictable. "Remember," Do Hyun told his team as they prepared their equipment, "we're not trying to fight our way through 300 guards. We're trying to confuse them long enough to get in, grab the princess, and get out." Private Yoon Tae-min was grinning like a kid on his birthday. He loved creating chaos, and this mission was going to let him do it on a massive scale. "Just give me 30 minutes, he said, checking his bag of homemade gadgets. "I'll have this whole fortress spinning in circles." The first part of the plan started at midnight. Taemin had spent the day planting small devices around the fortress's outer perimeter. Nothing dangerous, just annoying little gadgets that would make noise, flashlights, and generally drive the security sensors crazy. At exactly midnight, all of them activated at once. Suddenly, the fortress's detection systems were reporting intruders at 50 different locations. Alarm bells started ringing, searchlights began sweeping randomly across the landscape, and confused guards ran in every direction trying to figure out what was happening. While the guards were chasing shadows, Do Hyun and Lieutenant Choi Ji-woo made their move. They didn't head for the main entrance like the security systems expected. Instead, they went straight up, using climbing gear to scale the fortress's seemingly smooth walls. The beauty of their approach was its complete illogic. No rational military force would try to climb a vertical wall when there were perfectly good entrances at ground level. The automated defenses weren't even programmed to watch for climbers. They were focused on the chaos happening everywhere. Else, halfway up the wall, Do Hyun had to stop and catch his breath. His muscles were screaming and they still had 10 more levels to climb. But every time he felt like giving up, he thought about Princess Hiera sitting alone in that containment chamber, growing weaker every day. "You good, Captain?" Ji-woo whispered beside him. "Never better," Do Hyun lied, and kept climbing. They reached a maintenance window on the 15th level, just as Taemin launched the second phase of his distraction. This time, he hacked into the fortress's internal communication system and started playing random music in different sections of the building. Guards trying to coordinate their search suddenly found themselves listening to everything from classical symphonies to heavy metal rock. Do Hyun and Ji-woo slipped through the window into a dark corridor. According to their scans, the princess was 20 levels below them, in the fortress's most secure section. They had to move fast. Taemin's distractions wouldn't work forever. The corridors were a maze, but Ji-woo had memorized the layout during their earlier visit. She led them through maintenance shafts, storage rooms, and servant passages that most of the guards probably didn't even know existed. Every few minutes, they had to freeze as footsteps echoed nearby. Guards were still running around trying to figure out what was happening, but they were starting to get organized. Soon someone would realize that the perimeter alarms were just a distraction. 20 levels down, they finally reached the containment section. Do Hyun's heart pounded as he saw the familiar corridor lined with display cases. But something was wrong. There were more guards here than before, and they looked alert and ready for trouble. "They know," Ji-woo whispered. "Someone figured it out." Do Hyun checked his watch. They had been inside for 25 minutes. Taemin's distractions were supposed to last 30 minutes, but clearly some of Thorin's people were smarter than they had hoped. At the end of the corridor, he could see Princess Hiera's containment chamber. She was still there, still alive, But now there were 6 heavily armed guards standing between them and her. "New plan," Do-hyun said grimly, pulling out his weapon. "We do this the hard way." The firefight started fast and brutal. Do-hyun and Ji-woo had surprise on their side, but the guards had better positions and heavier weapons. Energy blasts lit up the corridor as both sides dove for cover behind display cases and doorways. "We need to reach her!" Do-hyun shouted over the noise of laser fire. Princess Hyera was trapped in her containment chamber just 30 meters away. But those 30 meters might as well have been 30 kilometers with 6 armed mercenaries in between. That's when something unexpected happened. Princess Hyera, despite being weak from months of captivity, began to glow brighter. Her crystal form pulsed with soft blue light, and suddenly the security barriers around her chamber started flickering and sparking. "She's trying to help us," Ji-woo realized, watching the princess concentrate intensely on the electronic locks, holding her prisoner. Do-hyun had heard that Vallani royalty had powerful psychic abilities, but he'd never seen them in action. Princess Hyera was somehow interfering with the fortress's electronic systems, using nothing but her mind. Security doors began opening and closing randomly, lights flickered on and off, and the guards' communication devices started making weird noises. "Keep her covered," Do-hyun ordered, laying down suppressing fire while the princess worked on her containment system. The guards were getting confused as their own fortress began working against them. Doors they expected to be locked swung open at the wrong times. Weapons that should have been fully charged suddenly showed empty power cells. Even their armor's targeting systems started giving them false readings. Specialist Han Da-eun arrived just in time, having followed the sounds of battle from her position near the fortress's medical bay. She was their team's medic and had been gathering supplies they might need for the princess's rescue. "How is she?" Da-eun called out, setting up a portable medical scanner while Do-hyun and Ji-woo kept the guards pinned down. "Weak but fighting," Do-hyun replied, watching the princess's form flicker as she pushed her abilities to their limit. "Can you help her?" "Not while she's still in that containment field. The energy barriers are interfering with my equipment." The princess seemed to hear them. With one final surge of effort, her crystal body blazed with brilliant light. Every electronic system in the corridor overloaded at once. Lights exploded, security cameras sparked and died, and most importantly, the containment field around her chamber collapsed completely. The sudden darkness worked in the human's favor. The guards, who relied heavily on their high-tech equipment, were suddenly fighting blind. Do-hyun and his team, trained to fight in all conditions, pressed their advantage. "Go! Go! Go!" Do-hyun shouted, rushing toward the princess's chamber, while Ji-woo and Da-eun provided covering fire. Princess Hyera collapsed the moment her containment field disappeared. The effort of overloading the fortress's systems had drained what little energy she had left. When Do-hyun reached her, she was barely conscious, her crystal form so dim it was almost transparent. "Your Highness, we're here to take you home," Do-hyun said gently, carefully lifting her surprisingly light form. "Your mother sent us." The princess's eyes flickered open, and she managed a weak smile. I knew someone would come," she whispered, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Da-eun quickly ran her medical scanner over the princess. "She's severely malnourished, and her energy levels are dangerously low, but she'll survive if we can get her proper treatment soon." "Then let's get out of here," Do-hyun said, cradling the princess protectively, as alarms began blaring throughout the fortress. Their rescue had been discovered, and soon every guard on Kadros would be hunting them, but they had her. After months of captivity, Princess Hyera was finally free, and Do-hyun was determined to keep her that way. The moment they stepped out of the containment chamber, every alarm in the fortress started screaming. Red lights flashed in the corridors, emergency doors slammed shut, and the sound of running boots echoed from every direction. Thoran's voice boomed through the communication system, furious and desperate. "Find them. I want my crystal princess back. No one leaves this planet alive." Do-hyun carried Princess Hyera as gently as he could, while running through the maze of corridors. She was so light it was heartbreaking. Months of captivity had weakened her terribly. Da-eun ran beside them, one hand on her medical scanner, the other holding her weapon ready. "Captain, The whole fortress is mobilizing, Jiwoo reported through their comm system. I count at least 50 guards between us and the landing platform. Taemin, where are you? Do-hyun called into his communicator. Making my way to the ship, came the reply, followed by the sound of explosions. But these guys are really mad about something. They fought their way through 3 levels of increasingly desperate guards. The fortress's automatic systems kept trying to trap them. Doors would slam shut just as they approached, elevators would stop working, and security turrets would pop out of hidden panels in the walls. But Princess Hira, despite her weakness, was still helping them. Every time a security system tried to block their path, she would focus her remaining psychic energy on it. Door locks would malfunction, turrets would spin wildly without firing, and elevator systems would activate at exactly the right moment. Save. Your strength, Your Highness, Do-hyun told her as they reached the main corridor leading to the landing platforms. We're almost there. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Must help. You saved me. I save you. The landing platform was in chaos when they finally reached it. Their ship, the Resilient Dawn, sat in the middle of a firefight. Taemin and the rest of the crew were already aboard, using the ship's weapons to keep dozens of guards at bay. There! One of the guards shouted, pointing at Do-hyun and his group. The humans have the princess! Energy blasts filled the air as they ran across the open platform. Do-hyun zigzagged desperately, trying to protect Princess Hira from the crossfire. A laser bolt singed his shoulder, but he kept running. They reached the ship's boarding ramp just as Thorin himself appeared on the platform, surrounded by his personal guard. The crime lord's face was twisted with rage as he saw his precious prize being carried away. You cannot escape, he screamed. My orbital defenses will destroy you before you reach space. Do-hyun strapped Princess Hira into a medical bed while Da-un started connecting her to life support systems. Then he rushed to the bridge and took control of the ship's flight systems. Everyone hold on, he announced, firing the engines at full power. The Resilient Dawn shot away from the fortress like a rocket, but their troubles were just beginning. The entire planet's defense network had been activated. Massive gun turrets on the surface began tracking their ship, and orbital weapons platforms moved to intercept them. Incoming missiles, Jiwoo announced from the weapons station. 20 contacts! Do-hyun threw the ship into a wild spiral, dodging the first wave of missiles by mere meters. But more were coming, and the orbital defense platforms were getting better at predicting his flight path. That's when Princess Hira's weak voice came over the ship's communication system. Left, turn left now. Do-hyun didn't hesitate. He yanked the controls hard to the left, just as a massive energy beam shot through the space where they had been flying. The targeting computers, the princess continued, her voice growing stronger. They're trying to lock onto us, but I can feel their electronic thoughts. Right now, dive down. Again, Do-hyun followed her guidance, diving toward the planet's surface just as another wave of missiles streaked past them. The princess was using her psychic abilities to read the targeting system's electronic signals, predicting their attacks before they happened. It was like having a crystal ball that could see a few seconds into the future. Up and left, now straight, now roll right. Following her telepathic warnings, Do-hyun piloted them through the impossible maze of weapons fire until they finally broke through the atmosphere, and into the safety of space they had done it. Princess Hira was free. Just as Do-hyun thought they were safe, the ship's sensors started screaming warnings. Behind them, 6 massive warships had launched from hidden bases around Kydros. These weren't just any ships, they were Thorin's personal fleet, military-grade vessels designed for hunting down escaped prisoners. They're gaining on us fast, Jiwoo reported from the sensor station. Those ships are twice our size and probably 3 times as fast. Do-hyun's hands flew over the controls, preparing for a hyperspace jump. How long until we can jump? Hyperspace engines need 2 more minutes to charge, called out engineer Lim Woo-jin from the engine room. But Captain, those ships will be in weapons range in 90 seconds. The math was simple and terrifying. Thorin's fleet would catch them before they could escape into hyperspace. Do-hyun watched the pursuing ships grow larger on his screen, their weapon systems already charging. For attack. Princess, are you strong enough to help us again? He asked over the intercom. I will try, came her weak reply from the medical bay. The first enemy ship opened fire, sending a stream of energy bolts toward the resilient Dawn. Do-hyun threw the ship into a spinning dive, barely avoiding the attack, but more ships were firing. Now and space around them filled with deadly energy beams. 30 seconds to hyperspace, Woo-jin announced. Do-hyun gritted his teeth and did something that no alien pilot would ever think to do. He flew straight toward the largest enemy ship, as if he was going to ram it. The alien captain, programmed with logical tactical thinking, assumed the human was trying to sacrifice himself and prepared defensive maneuvers. At the last second, Do-hyun spun the ship sideways and shot between two of the pursuing vessels. The move was so unexpected that the alien ships almost collided with each other, trying to avoid him. "Hyperspace ready," Woo-jin shouted. "Jump now," Do-hyun ordered. The stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace, but their relief lasted only seconds. The pursuing ships followed them into the swirling tunnel of faster-than-light travel. In hyperspace, there was nowhere to hide and limited room to maneuver. "They're still following us," Ji-woo said, her voice tense. "In hyperspace, their superior speed means they'll catch us for sure." The enemy ships were closing in, their weapons charging again. In hyperspace, a single hit could destroy both ships, but Thorin's captains were desperate enough to risk it. Do-hyun made a decision that was either brilliant or suicidal. "Woo-jin, I need you to reroute all power from life support and artificial gravity to the engines, everything we've got. Sir, that's incredibly dangerous. If we lose engine power now, do it!" Woo-jin's fingers danced over his controls, redirecting power systems in ways that violated every safety protocol ever written. The ship's lights dimmed, gravity disappeared, and the air recycling systems shut down. But their speed increased dramatically. The sudden acceleration caught the pursuing ships off guard. Their targeting computers, designed to predict logical flight patterns, couldn't adjust fast enough to the resilient Dawn's erratic speed changes. But Do-hyun wasn't done being unpredictable. Dead ahead, his sensors detected something that made every other ship captain in the galaxy change course immediately. An unstable wormhole, crackling with dangerous energy. "Captain, that wormhole could collapse at any moment," Ji-woo warned. "If we get caught inside when it closes." "That's exactly what I'm counting on," Do-hyun said grimly. "Princess, I need one more favor. Can you sense if that wormhole is stable? Enough for us to pass through?" From the medical bay, Princess Hira reached out with her psychic abilities, feeling the chaotic energy patterns of the wormhole. It's very dangerous, but there's a path, a narrow path that might work. Might work is good enough for me. Everyone hold on." Do-hyun aimed straight for the writhing wormhole. The pursuing ships, seeing where he was headed, began desperately trying to stop him with weapons fire. But their shots went wide as the wormhole's gravitational effects threw off their targeting. The resilient Dawn plunged into the wormhole, just as Princess Hira guided them through the one safe passage. Behind them, Thorin's ship stopped at the wormhole's edge, too afraid to follow. Seconds later, the wormhole collapsed completely, cutting off any chance of pursuit. They had escaped, but they were now somewhere completely unknown, floating in space far from any star system. They were alive. They were free, and Princess Hira was going home. It took them 3 days to find their way back to known space after the dangerous wormhole jump. Princess Hira grew stronger each day under Da-eun's careful medical treatment, her crystal form slowly regaining its natural glow. She spent hours talking with the human crew, amazed by their determination to save someone they had never met before. "Why did you risk everything for me?" she asked Do-hyun as they approached the Vallani homeworld. "Your people could have lived comfortably with just the reward money if you had failed," Do-hyun smiled, watching the beautiful crystal planet grow larger on their view screen. "Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people who need help, even if they're different from us. Your mother was heartbroken, and you were suffering. That was enough." Word of their approach had spread across the Vallani Empire faster than light itself. As the resilient Dawn entered orbit around the crystal homeworld, hundreds of Vallani ships appeared to escort them safely to the surface. Each ship pulsed with brilliant light. The entire species was celebrating the return of their lost princess. Queen Aratel waited in the famous Crystal Gardens, a place so beautiful it took Do-hyun's breath away. Towering crystal trees grew from the ground, their branches singing in harmonious tones as wind passed through them. Flowers made of living gemstones bloomed everywhere, creating a rainbow of colors that shifted and danced in the light. The Queen stood in the center of it all, surrounded by thousands of her people. But Do-hyun could see that her attention was focused entirely on the small ship, landing on the crystal platform. Her form glowed brighter than anyone else's, pulsing with nervous energy and desperate hope. Princess Hyera had insisted on walking out of the ship under her own power, though Da-un stayed close beside her just in case. The moment her feet touched the crystal ground of her homeworld, every Vallani in the gardens began to sing, a sound like 1,000 wind chimes playing the most beautiful song ever created. But the Queen only had eyes for her daughter. For a moment, neither moved, as if they couldn't believe this moment was real. Then Princess Hyera smiled, her crystal form blazing with joy. "Mum," she said simply, "I'm back." Queen Aratel rushed forward, and mother and daughter fell into each other's arms. Their crystal bodies began pulsing with the exact same rhythm, creating waves of synchronized light that spread outward through the gardens. Every Vallani present began glowing in harmony, until the entire area looked like a living constellation. Tears of liquid starlight flowed down both their faces as they held each other tightly. The Queen's grief and fear melted away, replaced by overwhelming joy. For months she had wondered if she would ever see her daughter again. Now Hyera was home, safe and alive. "I never lost hope," the Queen whispered, her voice carrying across the silent gardens. "But there were moments when the darkness seemed too strong. Thank you for proving me right to believe." She turned to Do-hyun and his crew, who stood respectfully at the edge of the reunion. Her crystal form blazed with gratitude so intense it was almost blinding. "Captain Lee Do-hyun," she said, her voice carrying the weight of royal authority and motherly love. "You and your people have given me everything that matters. You returned my heart to me when I thought it was lost forever." The Queen raised her arms, and her voice echoed across not just the gardens, but the entire planet through psychic connection. "Let it be known throughout the galaxy that humanity has earned the eternal friendship of the Vallani Empire. They succeeded where we failed, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they refused to give up hope when everyone else would have surrendered." She looked directly at Do-hyun. "You humans have something special, a stubborn refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Today you didn't just save my daughter, you reminded us all that hope is the most powerful force in the universe, Orcs." The celebration continued around them. Do-hyun watched the reunion with a satisfied smile. They had done it. They had brought the princess home, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of when they set their minds to helping others. The mission was complete, but the friendship between their species would last forever. Retriclad can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.